Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, bear with us for just a moment while we get ready for the show. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it is about time to start. About time to start the show. Grab your cocktails because this is a happy hour. Get yourself tucked in and set, and we will be starting in just a few seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, welcome to the Old Humble Distilling Company's Quarantine Happy Hour. This is the 81st running of the Quarantine Happy Hour, our weekly happy hour event. Today's episode, we have got cheers, Moose Cow. Welcome to the show. We have got a special guest today. We have Brian Langwell from the Left Turn Distilling Company. I have often talked about this bourbon that I picked up, the Left Turn Distilling Company's Old Santa Fe Trail Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is barrel number 3, bottle 112, that we picked up right before the apocalypse began. We were on the road out to visit family in. That's much better. I'm bright now. Woo! We were on the road out to visit family out in Flagstaff, Arizona, and on the way out to Flagstaff, Arizona, we went through Santa Fe and Albuquerque. Did we go through Santa Fe? No, we just went through Albuquerque. We went through Albuquerque. We stopped in at this little distillery. Cool little place. Picked up a bottle of this delicious stuff. I have not opened it yet. I have been waiting for the apocalypse to come to a decent conclusion so that I could get some good friends and good stories together. But the apocalypse hasn't quite come to an end. So I thought to myself, hey, self, and I knew it was me because I recognized my voice, why don't we just call up Left Turn and get one of those guys to come on and join us? And Brian was gracious enough to accept the invitation, and he will be joining me momentarily. But while waiting, we're going to go ahead with our opening shot, our Old Humble Straight Whiskey. And I would like to give a hearty thank you to my friends over on the Cabin Fever live stream on Twitch who are hosting us tonight on Twitch. Everybody over in YouTube world who are watching us on the Old Humble Distilling Company channel. Don't forget to hit a like on the video and subscribe on the channel. And keep your ears open for our next big thing, which will be Old Humble Date Nights. They will be going into our store at oldhumbledistilling.com. Yeah, that's it. oldhumbledistilling.com. You'll be able to get a bottle. You'll be able to get a bottle, a couple of cocktail mixers. Oh, as a matter of fact, I have one right here, just off camera to the left. Look at that. You'll get a bottle of our delicious straight whiskey, a couple of cocktail mixers, and most importantly, you'll get access to a show performed by our very own lovely and talented Ryan Adam Wells. So cheers, everybody. This is our opening shot. Be awesome to each other. This is going to be a good night. We're going to enjoy ourselves. I'm looking forward to Brian coming in so we can chat with him. Talk about all things distilling, whiskey, the whiskey scene out in Albequerque, New Mexico, and all over the place out there. I really would like to open up this bottle because it's been teasing me for almost a year now. We bought this the first week of March, 2020. And of course, all hell broke loose shortly thereafter. Let me get over to my other window so I can. Oh, there he is. He's actually waiting to come in now. I did not see it on my other screen. Is this Brian? Is this my man? So bear with us while we make sure we get the technical difficulties worked out. He will be coming in. I'm hoping that we will have audio. Brian, can you hear me? Can't hear me yet, but he'll be able to hear me in a second. 3, 2, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No. His technical assistant's going to give him a hand. Brian, can you hear me? All right. We will give Brian a chance to get the audio worked out. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the distillery when I came in to see it. When we road trip, we go road tripping like we go road tripping like yes, I heard audio. I see audio.
There you go. Are you here?
I hear you, Brian. Fantastic.
Oh, geez, sorry. I told you I'm horrible at this.
Hey, no worries, man. We this is a happy hour. We you know, all you got to do is have a cocktail and a story. That's it.
Well, it's a really happy hour for me. So,
well, my man, I think we got 20.
Oh, you got one too.
Yeah, I was telling everybody before you came on. I've been sitting on this bottle since the first week of March last year when I popped into y'all's distillery and picked up a bottle.
Oh, holy shit. Thank you for that.
And I've been waiting for the end of the apocalypse to get some friends together and tell some good stories and drink some good whiskey. But damn it, we haven't had a chance to get friends together because the apocalypse is still ongoing. But
I
figured who better to get on the show and talk about this whiskey than the person who makes this whiskey.
Dude, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I'm very, very, very glad you got that you agreed to come on the show. I'm super excited. I want to tap into this in just a second. But I was talking about how we go. Moose Gal says hi, by the way. One of our twos and twos of viewers. I was telling people when we go road tripping like they used to go road tripping. You know, we go from side street attraction to side of the road attractions. We saw the biggest shovel in the world that's out there in New Mexico.
Hold on 1 second, Amy. So my wife is standing here in the background. So we're going road trip here in a near future, and we're coming to see you. So.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Hi,
so this is my wife, Amy.
I'm Joe. Nice to meet you, Amy.
Hey, Joe.
So we'll come down to see you because you've already been to my place.
Oh yeah, come on down. When are you coming? April?
Well, we're waiting for the restrictions to lift. So,
well, actually, on our way home. So we were heading out to Flagstaff to visit family. On our way home is when all hell broke loose, and we actually had to stop in Albuquerque at one of the Krogers in Albuquerque to pick up food because we were spending an extra 3 days on the road because we figured if we were going to be in lockdown at home and not able to see anybody, we might as well spend an extra 3 days on the road and see some stuff. So,
hell yeah,
that's how we road trip. We get food in a big fat larder, and we go from KOA campsite to KOA campsite, and
I like that. I like
side of the road attraction. You know, big ball of yarn. My lovely wife puts together these giant itineraries, and it's fantastic. It'll take us a day to go 150 miles, and it's absolute bliss.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's a wizard with the itineraries, and she would be very happy if when she's done teaching, when she retires from the teaching world, she goes out and she just has a website full of itineraries for road trips for people to pick up. $5 for a road trip, a pre-canned road trip to get you anywhere you need to go.
Nice.
That's her vision for the future for her retirement.
Nice.
So what else did we do on this trip out there? We stopped. We saw the world's biggest shovel which was out there. I don't remember if
Right,
it was
right.
that's in New Mexico, right?
I think you're right. I think you're
Yeah.
right.
We stopped. We saw the. Uh, it was a rock carvings. A bunch of national parks. We stopped from national park, national park, national forest. All kinds of starts to run together. But it's just and Los Pies is that one of the Los Malpies, the bad feet was
Yeah,
one of the
El
parks out
Malpine.
there. Yeah,
El
Malpai.
Malpine.
That's it. Malpai. That's the one we saw.
Yeah.
That was one of them. Just beautiful country out there. Absolutely gorgeous. Uh, Tell us a little bit about your distillery.
So it's kind of a neat place. I mean,
The Left Turn Distilling Company, a
Left Turn
cultural reference that
Distilling.
people of a certain age understand.
Well, yeah. So a little bit of background. So I'm from Albuquerque.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a homeboy. I'm not. I wasn't born and raised there, but I'm an adopted homeboy. I mean, I moved to Albuquerque when I was 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Moved up to the mountains. Grew up in the mountains. Started reading books at an early age. Read books about making moonshine, about how you make booze.
Sure.
Thought that was cooler than shit,
As most 14-year-olds do.
as most 14-year-olds do. Uh, Thought, yeah, this is really cool. I needed to do something like this, like a science experiment thing. Started kind of messing around with alcohol things. Got a chemistry set when I was 15. Built a little glass still.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, from there it's history.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That's not vastly different from how I started. I actually started making beer in college.
Yeah.
And went from homebrewing beer in college to homebrewing wine, and then from wine to wine tastings, and wine tastings to whiskey tastings, and the whiskey tastings to making whiskey.
Yeah, we all get started kind of the same way. I mean, we get inspired. We want to drink things, and it's horrible to say that, but that's why we get into this business. It really is.
Accurate. Yeah.
We want to create things. We want to drink things after we create them and experiment, and it's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
So my experience is I kind of wanted to create spirits. I was really interested in spirits. It was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
So started as a hobby when I was 15 years old. Built a still from a little glass chemistry set. Started distilling stuff. It was cool. Horrible, but it was cool. Continued on with it. Kept doing it as a hobby. I've been doing this as a hobby for about 40 years now.
The first alcohol you made was based
First alcohol I made was, and this is horrible. I distilled some Coors that I borrowed from my father.
The banquet beer?
It. Well, I'm sorry.
Was it the banquet beer or the Coors Light?
It was the banquet.
Okay,
it was the banquet. Yeah. Distilled it into what we would call vodka, but wasn't really vodka. It was alcohol.
Yeah.
Thought this is cool. It's horrible all at the same time. And just thought, yeah, this is something cool. It's what I want to do for a hobby. And I did that as a hobby for most of my life. A lot of friends, as you can imagine.
Sure.
Because, friends are attracted to booze, and we drink a little bit. So
people hung out in my dorm all the time.
Yeah.
Every month I had a fresh batch of friends and beer.
Right. Had in the back of my mind is something I kind of wanted to do with myself once I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
I owned a machine shop for most of my life. I mean, I've been a machinist, welder, fabricator as long as I've been alive. Decided about in 2013, I was tired of doing that for a living and wanted to do something a little more relaxing or stressful, however you want to look at it. Sold my machine shop, used the proceeds from that to build a distillery.
Yeah.
I kept my building. So I sold the machine shop, kept the building. The guy that I sold my machine shop to moved it out. I kept my building. I took the building and I built all my stills, tanks, fermenters, all that stuff. And just kind of started a grassroots operation and just took my hobby and expanded it. I basically took I had a 5-gallon still for the most part of my life when I was doing things at home, and I just basically increased that to 150 gallons still.
Right. Because
Built a
you
big
make
ass
all the
still.
stills at your distillery, right?
I did. All the stills and tanks and plumbing and pipes and you name it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, totally grassroots.
Oh yeah.
Did all the permitting, did all the licensing, did all that stuff. And it was part of the challenge because I was the first distillery in Albequerque.
Right.
Never been a distillery in Albequerque before. So decided that was something I wanted to kind of move past, get past the regulatory things, and just built stuff from the ground up.
Yeah.
And I did, and it was good.
Yeah. Now, the regulatory, I always get asked that question about the regulatory stuff. Like they say, was it really hard to get it permitted and all that? For me, it was more just the volume and detail of questions, and they weren't hard questions to answer. It wasn't a challenge necessary to complete it. It was just a lot of it and detailed questions that you had to answer thoroughly. And was that the same thing? Is the state and federal guidelines over in New Mexico this like the same? Like there's voluminous questions, but not really hard questions. It's not like trigonometry. It's just a whole lot of basic math.
Right. So basically, on the federal side, that's easy because the federal side never changes.
Right.
The federal side's been what the federal side has been for years and years and years.
And you never have to renew it either.
Easy. Well, I'm sorry?
You never have to renew it either. Once you get the federal permit, you're set.
You don't.
Unless you move or change stuff or whatever you need to do.
And it's actually easy on the federal side because I mean, if you move, you put in your address. If you change owners, put in your new owners. It's not a big deal. It really isn't.
Exactly.
On the state side, New Mexico was a little different. So, and New Mexico was really weird because in Albuquerque, we were the first distillery. So when I approached the city and I told them I'm going to start a distillery, they said, holy fuck, you're making explosives or you're making gasoline. And they didn't understand anything about what we were going to do.
Yep.
It took about 2 months of city meetings with city councilors and with city government and the mayor and everybody involved to explain what craft distilling is.
Right.
And we finally convinced them that craft distilling is basic brewing, and we do another step after that.
Yeah.
After we brew it, we'll distill it, which is it's a negligible step.
Right.
So we managed to get it included in the city where the city recognized just craft distillers as brewers. Mm-hmm. So we're encompassed in the same basic conversation with brewers. And that was a huge thing, really huge thing, because they really looked at us like we were making explosives.
Yeah, they have no idea.
They have no idea.
The city of Humble basically ran me out of the city because they completely didn't understand what we were doing. We operated for 2 years inside of city limits before the fire marshal came out, freaked out. There was another distillery just outside of city limits that was operating kind of flying by the seat of their pants. And they kind of blew themselves up. That freaked out the city of Humble. The fire marshal literally said, your entire tank could explode. I said, how could it possibly explode? And he walked over there with a lighter. He said, somebody could do this. And he held the lighter. Like, well, don't do that. And we won't have any problems. Why are you putting a lighter near my alcohol, you crazy person? And then, long story short, now I'm just outside of city limits.
Nice.
And they're talking about how they can revitalize Main Street.
Yeah.
Here's an idea.
I mean, so much of this stuff is backwards. It really is.
Yeah, it's legitimately, truly crazy. I'm glad that the city of Albuquerque at least had you in on the meetings, and it wasn't just some pearl clutching council member's wife going, "Oh, but they might be dancing."
They were there too. Were there too. Yeah.
Do we really want to have companies like that in our town? Oh.
Yeah.
Which was actually said at an Humble meeting.
But you got to understand too that Breaking Bad was filmed in Albuquerque.
We visited the house while we were there. Yes. Well, we drove past the house. We didn't visit the house. We respected the privacy of the owners with their giant.
Yeah. So you kind of understand what we're up against here in Albuquerque.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, so many of the people in the city just think that that's kind of what it is.
Yeah,
they think that if you're distilling things, you're making meth, you're gonna blow the city up.
Just go to Albuquerque and get some meth and pizza, because that's what Albuquerque's got.
We do have good pizza here too.
That's what I
can't comment on the meth. I'm sure the meth is awesome.
We did not spend the night in Albuquerque, so we didn't have dinner in Albuquerque, but we spent a good chunk of the day. I think we might have had lunch in Albuquerque, but we brought our own lunch, so there you go.
Okay.
We did have a drink. Well, I had a drink in Albuquerque. My lovely wife didn't have her wallet with her, so she was denied a drink. We were able to come in with our kids. Both of the boys were able to come in. They had Shirley Temples. They both had Shirley Temples.
Oh, nice.
I think, had a lemonade, and I had I had a cocktail with something. I can't remember what it was, but it was I was really excited about getting the bottle, and I'm really excited about tearing into this bottle. So let's have a cocktail.
Let's.
Tell me about the Santa Fe, Old Santa Fe Trail Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Tell me about this. Well, first tell me what else you've got. What else is on the menu at the Left Turn Distilling Company?
So Old Santa Fe Trail is our latest offering. Of course, because it's a straight bourbon, so it's 2 years old. So it's the latest thing we've done, because as this craft distiller, it's really, really hard to sit on something for a couple of years and not sell it.
Kills me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you guys. It's hard to explain this. You spend $10,000 on grain and $20,000 on labor to make that grain, and you can't see it for 2 years.
Yep. You sit on it, and it doesn't pay rent while it's sitting in barrels.
You got to pay rent. You got to pay electricity. Really fucking hard. Really fucking hard.
Kills me. Our Boomtown bourbon, our major bourbon, is only aged 6 to 9 months, because we use 5-gallon barrels, which makes it even more expensive because the barrels are more expensive. But at least we can get it out within the year. But I'm definitely looking forward to moving to the 52-gallon barrel, so we can age it for 2 or 3 years. Here in Texas, we have those humidity swings and temperature swings down in Houston. We have those temperature swings. I mean, y'all get the big temperature swings too, but it's kind of a dry.
We do.
Kind of dry. We get those temperature swings where it's still wet in the air. So it ages it entirely differently. So we can probably get away with 3 years in a 50-gallon cask instead of 5.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We get absolutely no humidity where we're at.
I know.
So we induce it. I mean, where I age my barrels at, we actually have a bunch of swamp coolers.
No kidding.
Which we call humidifiers in this neck of the woods. So we use humidifiers during the summertime. So we get a little humidity in the summertime. Wintertime is drier than shit, but cold too.
Yeah.
So the temperature swings really help your aging process. They really do.
Tremendously. I explain this to people. How in Kentucky, when it ages, it really ages for like 6 to 9 months out of the year, because the other months it's cold and it doesn't really age. This is why you don't put whiskey casks in a cave. You put them in an old tobacco barn, because then you get the full weathering effect. You get the temperature swings and everything.
Exactly right.
If you just put them in a cave where it's a steady 72 degrees, it doesn't really get the character and personality of the barrel and the time that it's in the barrel. It just kind of sits there. It's great for wine,
absolutely,
but not so great for whiskey.
So let's talk about this a little bit. I'll go backwards through history. So we'll talk about our bourbon first off. So our bourbon is the Santa Fe Trail, Old Santa Fe Trail. This is the first straight bourbon introduced to New Mexico. Never been a straight bourbon in New Mexico. Straight bourbon means it's been aged 2 years.
At least. Right.
At least 2 years. You can age more than that, but turns out when it turned 2 years old, we need to get it out of the barrel and sell it, because we've been sitting on it for so long. We need to move it. We need to move. So Old Santa Fe Trail bourbon, 2 years old. The grain bill on this stuff, this is 80%, excuse me, let me back up. 70% blue corn, 30% rye. So it's a high rye. I'm looking forward for you to taste it, so you can taste the rye.
Yeah, I need to quit screwing around here. So say that again. Did you say 80% corn?
So I had to back off a little bit. 70% blue corn. It's roasted blue corn.
Roasted blue corn.
And 30% rye.
All right. So it's just
And
the 2 grains?
it's aged in new charred oak barrels for 2 years.
So it's just the 2 grains, rye and corn.
That's it.
No barley in there at all. Gotcha.
No barley in there at all.
All right.
We use industrial enzymes to break down from there.
Okay. So you add the beta in a powder form. Or
we do.
Form,
well, it's a liquid form.
Awesome. It's got a good smell to it. I like that.
Thank you. I want to hear this impression.
So, ooh, I taste the rye.
Uh-huh.
The rye brings the high heat there, but wow, that is nice and mellow.
Thank you.
It's got a good mellow kind of drapey flavor to it. It just kind of coats the tongue and just drinks. I like it. This is really yummy. In fact, I can't remember. I don't think y'all had this at the bar. I don't think y'all had any bottles of this at the bar. I think she had to go in the back and get it.
She did.
If I recall. Yeah.
So the first release we did this, and this is one of those chronological things. The first release we did was 1 barrel. We did 1 barrel because I really didn't want to get into the whole aged bourbon thing because I didn't want to sit on my inventory that long because it hurts so bad. The first year we did bourbon, we did 1 barrel, which is 53 gallons, aged it for 2 years, released it. That batch of bottles, which is basically 250 bottles for 1 barrel of bourbon.
Right.
That batch lasted roughly about 4 months. Everybody clamored in and took that up. The next year, and we do this every year we go. So chronologically, the first year we did 1 barrel, second year we did 2 barrels, next year we did 4 barrels, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So first year we had 1 barrel to release. It was accepted and went, and everybody loved it. Next year, 2 barrels, accepted and went, it's gone. So now we're waiting for the next batch. The next batch comes out in March. There's 4 barrels that come out in March.
So excited.
In March, we'll have 4 barrels of this stuff ready. So that's basically roughly 1,000 bottles. Let's just call it 1,000 bottles.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. Wow.
Yeah.
And how long typically when you crack the barrel and put out the release, you put out the word to your fans and fam, how long does it last before you get to the last bottle?
Well, the first batch was 1 barrel, lasted 4 months.
Okay.
The next one, 6 months, and there's 2 barrels. So hopefully the next release
is picking up. Yeah.
I don't know. Apparently, I need to be making more bourbon. Apparently.
Well, that's kind of the boat we're in. I was using super small batches. So my last batch of bourbon that I made, our Boomtown bourbon. Here's our bottle of Boomtown bourbon. The last batch of Boomtown bourbon we made. This is one of the last bottles. It was only like 5. It was only like 5 cases, and I sold it out in 3 days.
And the bottle that you have might be the last in existence, but this is definitely the last in existence right here.
Yeah. Wow.
Until
I'm
March.
really, really glad she went back there and got this because this is really yummy. And it's only 2 grains. So I guess malted barley doesn't really bring a whole lot of flavor to the party, especially when it's just a little bit. It does not.
I mean, as a distiller, what we use malted barley for, we use it for a conversion aspect.
Right, the conversion because it's got the
beta amylase in it.
Yeah.
But I don't use the enzymes from barley. I basically use amylase and beta enzymes.
Yeah.
And I do this without using barley because I don't think barley brings anything to the party.
Yeah.
How are they get it done?
Right. Most of the scotches that are the single malts, they get a lot of flavor from their barrels and a lot of flavor from the smoke and a lot of flavor from other stuff. But
right.
The barley itself, it gives a nice mild flavor, I suppose, but not a whole lot of
it. Does. It'll bring it down a little bit, but I don't want to bring my shit down. I want to stand up a little bit. And I'm a corn guy. Mm-hmm. I'm a corn whiskey guy. Yeah. That's kind of how I started my forte. This business I started based on corn whiskey. That's kind of what I did it for. Mm-hmm. So this bourbon is based on blue corn. That's what it is. I mean, it's 70% blue corn.
Yeah. But the high rye, the 30% rye that's in there really balances out the flavor.
It does.
With the barrel because I've had a lot of corn whiskeys that are heavy corn whiskeys, 90% corn. In fact, our straight whiskey that we do here, our straight whiskey is 90% corn, and in its
Nice.
original existence, in its original form, it was a bourbon, 90% corn, 10% malted barley, aged in new barrels. We called it Roughneck Reserve Bourbon, but I didn't like the way the barrel just kind of just stormed through the flavor of the whiskey. The barrel,
Sure.
the mostly corn versus the barrel tasted like burnt wood.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't pleasant to my palate. I didn't like it so much.
Right, right.
So now we age it in used bourbon barrels. We kind of backed off the charring to give it a much more mild flavor. And a lot of the corn whiskeys that I drink that are aged in new bourbon barrels, they just taste burned, and it doesn't excite me very much. But with the rye in this, it really balances out that barrel a lot and gives it that nice, it gives it a nice balanced flavor. And I like
Yeah,
balanced flavors.
yeah. I'm a fan of that as well. So I don't know if you had any of our stuff when you were here. So our blue corn whiskey.
In fact, I think that might have been what I had while I was there. I think
Our
that
blue
might have
corn
been the
whiskey.
one we had at the bar.
This is 100% blue corn. It's all it is.
Right.
There's nothing else in there. There's no barley in there whatsoever. It's roasted blue corn. So we start with roasted blue corn and we distill it from there. And it is a traditional blue corn.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's a traditional corn whiskey where it's when we distill this, we actually run through really deep into the tails. You can explain that later if you want. I can explain now. You can say it.
We'll talk to him later.
Yeah. So we run kind of deep into the tails because we want to take some of that corn flavor out of it.
Sure.
Because it's corn whiskey.
Yeah. Corn
whiskey, you want it to taste like corn.
Right.
And this stuff actually has kind of a popcorn flavor to it. And this is our biggest selling whiskey right now.
Cool.
Very cool. And it's really weird because I have to explain it to everybody. I explain it to everybody. So this is not bourbon. It's not Scotch. It's not rye. This is corn whiskey.
I get that question all the time. All the time when I'm doing tastings, I'm like, "Would you like to try my whiskey? Is it bourbon?" No, but
yeah, no. Yeah, I got to explain. This is corn whiskey. So corn whiskey, it's a different thing. I mean, corn whiskey, it's our American heritage. I mean, when our people came here on the Mayflower, they got to this country. There was no barley. They had to make booze with something. They got corn from the natives. They learned how to make corn beer, and shortly after, corn whiskey. Really rudimentary stills. So when they distilled something, it was really rough. It had a lot of the flavor of what was in it, corn. So that's kind of how it came from.
Yeah.
So when we make corn whiskey now, that's what we want it to be. We'll distill it the same kind of way. We want to have a lot of that corn flavor in there. I don't want to just refine this a whole lot. I don't distill a whole lot more than I need to. I want it to taste like corn. I want you guys to know what this stuff tastes like.
Right.
So corn whiskey, that's what this tastes like. It has a kind of a popcorn flavor to it, has kind of a burn to it and a sweetness to it at the same time.
And it's
awesome stuff.
It's not too heavily. It's not aggressively aged in the barrel the way that
this is aged for 8 days in wood chips. I'm not going to say a barrel either.
Yeah, just enough to give it color and flavor. That's it.
I take the barrels that I've aged in my bourbon. I'll cut them up into little 1-inch chunks.
Yeah.
I'll throw them into a tote, a big plastic tank. I'll pour this whiskey in there, and I'll let it sit 8 days, and I'll drain it out.
That's
it. It gets enough color to where it looks like that.
That's all it takes, too. Really.
Yellow. I mean, it's not brown, it's yellow.
Right.
The more you age corn whiskey, the more you take out of it.
Right.
So the more flavor
you're fighting with the flavor of the whiskey itself.
You're fighting with the flavor. So we don't want to take that out of there. Yeah. So we want to preserve that flavors. We want to give it a little bit of oak. And honest to God, Joe, the only reason I do that is because of the color.
Yeah.
I did this white for years and years and years.
People are kind of askance at whiskey that's not colored. When you got a white whiskey, people kind of look at it like, is that really drinkable? Like,
well, corn whiskey traditionally is served unaged. Totally white.
Yeah, it's the only whiskey that doesn't have to be aged.
Yeah, absolutely. So
by law,
for years and years, they did it like that. I served this whiskey as white. I mean, as it came off the still, it has this nice popcorn flavor to it.
Right.
People would look at it and say, dude, that's not whiskey. It's not brown.
I'm telling you, that's one of my favorite parts of the job is on distilling days, actually testing the whiskey to make sure it still tastes like whiskey.
Yeah. So we actually had to age this stuff a little bit just to give it some color.
Yeah.
Because customers wouldn't accept it if it was totally clear.
Right.
And I'm all right with that. We still sell a shitload of white blue corn whiskey too, though. Yeah. Because there's this customer base that understands that the flavor that comes along with that corn is totally superb when it's totally unaged. So we sell a bunch of this stuff white too.
Yeah. And in fact, when we open up our tasting room, we're going to divert a portion of our Boomtown bourbon into a barrel that has a hole at the top and a hole at the bottom, so that we can immediately age it and sell our Ghost Town bourbon. That's a white bourbon. Get one of those little char coils that you can buy next to it, and you can bring it home and age it for as long as you want. You can make that stuff midnight black if you wish.
There you go.
Because in the bottle with a charred coil of oak, man, that stuff can age fast. Over the course of a week, you can get a 5 years worth of aging into it.
Absolutely.
Man,
customer's always right, Joe.
That is absolutely fun. So we're about halfway through. This is fantastic. What else do you have in the? What else do you have on the menu? You've got the blue corn whiskey. Just for my own personal edification, if you took a plate of blue corn and a plate of yellow dent corn, blindfolded yourself, could you taste the difference?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So the difference,
I'm
the difference, and I can explain this too.
I get people that ask me all the time what kind of corn we use. I'm like, it's just corn. But I'm skeptical as to whether or not the corn actually tastes different because it's freaking corn. But
yeah,
if you've actually tried them side by side, and if you can taste the difference, I'm going to trust you.
So the difference between yellow dent corn and blue corn is that, number one, there's more protein in blue corn.
Mm-hmm.
Little bit less sugar, more starch. So blue corn actually will make a little bit more sugar when you're distilling it.
Okay.
And it has a different taste to it because there's more protein.
I gotcha.
It more body. And we actually roast our blue corn too.
Yeah, so roasting it helps a lot. There's another distillery here in Texas that makes a corn whiskey that is smoked corn. They smoke the corn over Texas scrub oak. And my God, it smells like a campfire when you open up the bottle. It is absolutely fantastic. When my brother got married, he got married in Santa Fe. Their anniversary was on the 2nd. Happy anniversary, Harry. Nice. We go to the wedding, and when we were off doing the stuff, the staff at the hotel, it was February 2nd, February 1st and 2nd. So it was snowing in Santa Fe. They loaded up the fireplace and lit the fireplace for us while we were out of the room. So we come back, we have a nice warm room, and the room smelled like the scrub oak that they were using in the fireplace. And when we opened up our first bottle of this whiskey, it smelled like those hotel rooms that we were at for my brother's wedding. So there's two memories whenever we open up one of these bottles. The whiskey was not there at the wedding, but whenever we open up these bottles, it smells like my brother's wedding, and it smells like a campfire. And it is a fantastic whiskey. I absolutely love it. There's a whiskey on our future menu that's going to be a smoked. It's going to be a barbecue blend of smoked hardwoods.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Like mesquite and hickory and stuff that you would put in your smoker to make your briskets.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot wait until we can start doing stuff
like
this.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's talk about what our product offering is.
Yeah, tell me what else you have on your menu.
I don't know if I have all of it here. My wife brought forth some of the bottles we have here because I usually have bottles here because I'm totally prepared for it. So we'll start at the bottom. So vodka, of course, as a distillery, you got to start with vodka.
Sure.
Vodka's easy. I mean, you got to make something you can sell. So this is our vodka. This is our first vodka. This is Luz Vodka.
Okay.
Really clean, clear vodka. We distill this through our column still. Comes out really clean, clear vodka. This is something you put in a cocktail when you want it to disappear.
Sure.
You don't want to taste your vodka. Mm-hmm. This is that. awesome vodka. The other version of this is our green chili vodka.
Ooh.
La Luz Verde.
Okay.
Which is basically the same vodka that's got green chili infused in it.
So the green chilies, these are they sweet chilies or hot chilies?
Hot chilies.
Okay.
Well, Anaheim, New Mexico chilies.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I should probably yell at my old lady right now and see if she can bring a bottle of our gin. Our gin is really cool too. So the things we have to do as a distillery to actually survive, we got to do vodka because everybody wants vodka. We got to do gin.
Mm-hmm.
So the gin that we do, can you see? Is there a bottle of Old Tom gin? I know there is. So, sorry, that was a side note. So vodka, you got to do vodka to survive. We make a really clean and clear vodka for cocktails and such like that. Doesn't taste like anything. Makes really awesome in cocktails. We distill it more than we should.
Okay.
We don't make them from scratch. We start from a neutral grain spirit, and we distill it until there's nothing left. So we make a totally neutral vodka. So when you make a cocktail with it, you can't tell it's there.
Okay.
And it's one of those things you can explain to your partitioners later.
Both of my viewers.
Yeah, whatever.
My mom and my
yeah.
It's not my wife. She's not watching.
Nice. The next thing when we started making gin, and gin, this is one of those really weird things. I didn't want to make gin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like gin. I never have liked gin.
Same boat.
So when I started making gin, I had to make a gin that I wanted to drink. So I decided that I wanted to make gin that I liked. So I decided on an Old Tom gin.
Okay.
That's what this is right here. Old Tom gin's a little bit different. Old Tom gin it's an older style of gin, basically from the 1750s in England. When they were making gin back in England in the 1700s, it was illegal. Couldn't make it at all. Outlawed by the government. So when they were making it in their basements and whatever, in their back alleys. They were making questionable stuff. They were basically taking alcohol. They were infusing it through pine needles. They were infusing it through turpentine. They used things like acid to get some citrus flavor to it. Really questionable stuff. So back then, they figured out that if they added sugar to their gin, it actually made it taste a shitload better.
Okay.
Man, imagine that. Yeah. So with that, Old Tom gin was born.
Okay.
Old Tom gin originated in the 1700s in England. It was basically a really shitty quality gin. They put sugar in, and it made it taste good. So Old Tom gin was the basis for most of the gin cocktails we know today. Tom Collins has to be made with Old Tom gin.
That's right.
Call it Tom Collins.
That's right. That's how it. That's how it got its name.
Yeah, it's how it got its name. The way it got its name is actually on the back of our label, and you can see the whole story on the back of our label.
Okay.
Tell the story about how it got its name. How it got its name is it was illegal at the time. There were various taverns in England that were serving gin to the basic customers. They would have a big cat sign above their door.
Mm-hmm.
They would have a pipe running down that cat sign to the outside. And when the customer would come up and put a coin in between the cat's eyes, they would pour a shot of gin out, and the customer would get a shot of gin.
There you go.
So it became known as Old Tom because of the cat.
Tomcat. Gotcha.
Tomcat, yeah.
Brilliant.
So, but the gin that was served at the time was a sweetened gin that was a horrible gin. They sweetened it to make it so it's palatable. We don't do that now. This is actually a decent gin.
You make stuff that's not outright poison.
It's not outright poison. So Old Tom gin nowadays, what we know Old Tom gin is basically a gin. So everybody knows gin is London dry gin.
Mm-hmm.
London dry being no sugar, just like in the wine and beer world.
Right.
Whereas Old Tom gin would be a sweet gin, where it's actually wet gin. So that's what Old Tom is. It's basically a sweetened gin.
Gotcha.
It's got a little bit of sugar in it. We add about 2% sugar by weight.
Yeah. Just enough to give it that little bit of flavor.
Just enough to give it that little bit of sweetness.
Gotcha.
And knocks a little bit of alcohol off, because when you add sugar to alcohol, it decreases alcohol feel to it.
Right. It's very hygroscopic and kind of soaks up things into the sugar. So
yeah, and it brings out some of the flavor of the botanicals. It really works well. So Old Tom gin is an awesome cocktail gin.
Okay.
Old Tom Collins, best cocktail. Martinez, which is a predecessor to a martini. Basically, what a Martinez is it's Old Tom gin, a little bit of sweet vermouth as opposed to dry vermouth, a little bit of citrus. Amazing. It's something you got to try. Look it up. It's a good thing.
I'm willing to bet every single person has a bottle of vermouth in their. I'm surprised that they even sell vermouth anymore, because I swear to God, everybody has a bottle of vermouth that's like 80% full, because they bought a bottle, made a couple of martinis, and they've never used it since. And there's in fact, I've got a bottle right over here that is half full. I'm looking at it right now. It is this much in there out of this much of a bottle. And I swear to God, everybody has to have one of those bottles. And like the lid is kind of crusty, around the threads, because they haven't used it in 6 years or 10 years, and they move from one house to the next, and they pack up that bottle of vermouth, and they unpack the bottle of vermouth, and they pack it up. I swear to God, 3-4 times, and then their grandkids throw it away when they die.
And it's kind of horrible, because vermouth's actually wine, so it's volatile. So it goes bad after about 2 months after you open it. So store your vermouth away.
I swear to God, they should sell it in those little bitty single serving bottles, and not the big giant wine bottles. Those little bitty single serving bottles is perfect. That's all you need.
Throw that shit away. Buy a new bottle of vermouth. Let's make cocktails. I mean, it's amazing.
There you go. Or just get some ice and be a man. God.
All right, so let's move on down the line. So we talked about our vodka and our gin. So next we got to talk about our rum. So we got a couple of different varieties of rum. So we have a really unique New Mexico rum.
Okay.
Which is really weird, because rum should come from Mexico. So this is called Rojo, which is Spanish for red. This is Pinyon Rum. It's the first and only Pinyon flavored rum in the world.
Okay.
Basically, when we distill this stuff, we put some Pinyon nuts in it and distill it, and we get some Pinyon nut flavor through to this rum. Pinyon is kind of odd. It's kind of a peanut oily. I can't even explain it. It's a New Mexico thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a native nut.
It's a native nut, is what it is.
Cool.
Or nut or seed, or however you want to look at it. So this is a traditional Caribbean style rum, and it tastes like Caribbean rum, and it has kind of a nice nutty flavor to it. And this works awesome in any cocktail, like a mojito, where anytime you mix this with anything that's carbonated or fruity, it really brings that Pinyon flavor out. It brings that pine nut flavor out. You guys know what pine nuts are, right?
Oh yeah.
So
we got pine nuts. We got pine trees forever. We got pine nuts.
So same thing. This has pine nuts in there. So when you mix this with a cocktail, it brings those pine nuts out, and you taste that. It's a really neat flavor.
Cool.
And for us in New Mexico, it's our state nut, I guess. That's what they say anyway.
Our state nut is the governor.
Nice.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Yeah. Good job. So we have a light variety as well. So we have a light variety of the rum that doesn't have Pinyon in it.
Okay.
Basically, it's a rum. It's a Caribbean style rum that's light.
Okay.
We basically bottle it before we put Pinyon in it, before we put oak in it. So
gotcha.
It's awesome too. So one of the things I'm pretty sure I should have talked about this earlier. So we talked about our Old Tom gin.
Yeah.
So this would be our barrel aged version of our Old Tom gin.
So you barrel age your gin. We've got a contractor we're working with. We're making gin for them under their label, and we took some of the first runs that we did and put in a barrel. I wasn't sure if there was anybody on in the States who was making barrel aged gin.
There are.
So tell me more about it, because I'm anxious to see what this stuff tastes like when it comes out of the barrel. We just put it in like last month.
Nice. Last month, so you got so long to wait. You got so long,
like summertime-ish at least.
Yeah. So barrel aged gin, it's a thing. I mean, so the thing behind gin and barrel aging gin, and I research this stuff all the time. So because I make Old Tom gin, which is a really traditional, historic kind of a gin, I keep researching stuff all the time, and I keep finding little tidbits here and there about how things were done, and I keep coming to little details about gin was hidden in barrels because it was illegal.
Sure.
And so the Old Tom gin they were making back in the day, the really shitty, nasty stuff that was made with turpentine and acid and sugar, well, they put it in a barrel and they ship it down river somewhere else because it was illegal to sell.
Right. Anything they could do to mask the flavor of turpentine.
Yeah. So the stuff that would come out at the end of the barrel trip would be this kind of stuff. This is our conversionist, what this is called. This is our barrel aged gin. This has been aged for 2 years in a red wine barrel.
Okay.
And I chose red wine barrels because when you're making booze, wine doesn't matter. I mean, you put booze in there, it comes out totally neutral. There's no red in there. It doesn't matter. I mean, the red wine adds a little bit of a character to it.
Exactly.
So what the red wine barrel adds to it adds this little bit of a neat character to it. So this stuff right here, this conversus aged gin, this has been aged for 2 years. This comes out tasting kind of like a bourbon flavored gin, if you will.
Gotcha. Well,
if you didn't taste this when you're here, I need to bring you some of this because this is
do something like that amazing. Too, where they
this is the best gin in the world. I mean, it's not just this my gin. This is the best gin in the world. It really is.
You've got not just the gin flavor, but the red wine flavor. Just a hint of the red wine flavor.
Really hint of the red wine.
And then there's the flavor of the barrel. So you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in that.
Whole bunch of stuff going on. So
I want to try that.
What happens is as this gin sets in this barrel, some of those flavors oxidize. So you get some, you get some really neat and weird flavors in there. So there's flavors you taste in this that I didn't add to this.
That's what I love so much about what we do.
It's amazing. It really
what we do is so much a process of discovery, so much more a process of discovery than a process of creation. I mean, when I made our special reserve, it wasn't like I sat down and said, okay, this is what I want to make. And when I made my bourbon for the first time, it wasn't a thing where I sat down and said, okay, this is what I want to make. And I had boxes to check off. It was, this is what I think will happen with this much corn. This is what I think will happen with this rye. And this is what I think will happen when I throw in the barley. If we age it for this amount of time, let's see what happens. If I age it for a little bit longer, let's see what happens. It was this process of discovery. Columbus didn't make America. He freaking discovered America. And that's what I love so much about what we do. When you put that whiskey in the barrel, when you put the gin in the barrel, when you put the rum in the barrel, you wait. And then you are on pins and needles and you're as excited about what comes out of that as anybody else because you haven't tried it yet. And I love it.
We know as a distiller, we actually try it all the time. So,
but you haven't tried the finished product yet.
We haven't tried the finished product.
And once you discover what it is that you're trying to make, with our special reserve as a perfect example, I love this. The story that I always tell about the birth of our special reserve is I had 14 bottles that were aged with one of those charred coils. Because what we do with our special reserve, we take our straight whiskey, we put it back in a barrel, and we age it again to finish it with a little bit darker color and a little bit more barrel flavor.
Sure.
So the way we discovered the flavor that we wanted to use was we literally had 14 bottles.
Right.
Each week I put a charred oak coil in a bottle. So from week 0 to week 14, we had 14 bottles that were aged from 0 to 14 days. And we sat around a table, me and 6 of my friends sat around a table with each one of these bottles over the course of 2 days and sampled the bottles, took notes, rated them. And at the end of the 2 days, I kind of compiled the data to find out which bottle was the good bottle. We kind of randomized them and did all the stuff that you need to do for a proper blind tasting. And it was this discovery process of when does the whiskey, as it continues to age, get the flavor and color that I'm looking for. Because we had no idea what would happen if we just took this straight whiskey and put it back in a barrel. And I mean, we had an idea of what would happen, but we didn't know what it would be, what kind of person it would grow up into, what kind of whiskey it would become when it grew up.
Right.
And it turns out that the stuff that was aged a little bit longer wasn't quite as good as this. There was like this middle point, like the line kind of went up and it plateaued and it kind of dropped off at the end where it was aged too much.
Spirals are weird like that. I mean, spirals are one of the things that you gotta be careful. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can go way too far with spirals, and it happens really fast. You don't have it happen.
Well, right, exactly. That's why we kept going day at a time. I've done the same thing with a small, like 2-gallon barrel. We aged it for a couple of months to kind of get a feel for the flavor, and then like 3 days later, I tasted it and it was great. And then 3 days later, I tasted it and it was garbage. And it happened just like that. So we blew past that green zone real fast.
And then you redistill it and start again.
Yeah, we just start over. That's how you go. I mean, that's what you do. That's what what are the people that work with clay? Or whatever.
Potters.
That's it. The potters. That's what they do. They screw up their pot and they just do it again. So we got about 5 minutes left. Dude, that was fascinating. That was fabulous. What was the last movie you saw?
Iron Man 2 last night.
Last night, Iron Man 2. Okay, I've got a question from
wife and I decided we're going to watch all the Marvel movies just because we got to catch up. So
we did that in the very beginning of the apocalypse. We got home like, what are we going to do? Let's watch all there's like 30 Marvel movies. So we started from the beginning and we worked our way through the saga. I'm like, what are we going to do next? Well, we can watch the Harry Potter movies. We can watch the Lord of the Rings movies. That's like 600 movies. I mean,
This COVID thing sucks, by the way.
It's the worst. It didn't have to be this bad. Okay. Here's a question from chat. What is the hardest part of running the business? What is the hardest part of running the distillery?
Employees. Without a doubt. Employees.
Other human beings.
They're
random. They're random as fuck. Okay.
Employees.
It's not just the interpersonal relationships.
Expand on that if you want. So
it's not just the interpersonal relationships, the actual human factor. There's the paperwork involved, the money involved, the taxes, the reporting, all the schedules and stuff that you have to fill out each year. I'm gonna have a little bit more of this.
As you may know, you explain this really, on your end.
Really yummy, by the way.
Thank you. There's so much paperwork that goes into the distillery business.
Very yummy.
We have to deal with so much bullshit.
Well, we have to report every month. We have to report what we have in storage, what we have in process, and what we have finished. We have 3 reports we have to submit every month, and every quarter we have to support an excise tax or have to report excise taxes and pay the excise taxes. And then, that's it. That's every month on the 15th. All that stuff's due every single month on the 15th. 3 reports. If you produce it, what you have in storage, so it goes from the still into storage, what's in the barrels, and then what's in the barrels into the bottles. You have to report all the processes. All 3 processes every single month. It's fun.
Right.
It's great. It's terrific. I love it. I would like to.
On top of that, we have to deal with employee taxes, workman's comp. We got to deal with employee issues, and employees are unhappy.
Yeah. So it's basically the business part of the business is the hardest part of running it. And that's probably true with every business. The business part of the business is the hardest part of running the business.
It is.
If all you had to do every day was get up and boil
this business is no different than any other business. It runs the same way, but we have the government looking for oversight on the top of our shoulder. So
just making sure that we got the government is looking
over shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole nother discussion to be had about the the tradition of small batches and small uh, the the history, the historical traditions that come with distilling, like what you were talking about with the gin,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
with the quarter between the cat's eyes, and the way
Mhm.
that every farm had a hole with gin or with whiskey buried in it in a barrel. How rye grew up, and there's all kinds of stories to be told about the history and character and texture of the whiskey industry that's completely been steamrolled by giant corporations that run the whiskey industry today. And it's so frustrating and so annoying because there's so much that small craft distilleries are bringing to the spirits game. I mean,
Absolutely.
we could run this podcast for
Absolutely.
another freaking hour. Uh,
We need to talk about this in the future for sure.
well, you have a standing invitation
We
to
can
come back
spend
on the
months
show.
talking about this stuff, Joe. We
You have an
can.
absolute standing invitation. We'll do it again in a couple of months. Uh,
Absolutely.
now that you know how to use.
Now that I heard you Zoom, I'm a horrible Zoomer. I'm sorry. I'm an old guy. What do you do?
Hey, you're not that much older than I am.
Well,
Don't sell yourself short. I mean, no, I take that back. You're much older than I am. I just have a white beard. I'm only 28.
thank you. Good job, Joe.
So tell us. Well, here in Texas, they can't find your whiskey. Can you deliver, or are you allowed to ship out of New Mexico?
We are. Well, and it's all one of those touchy feely things. We're
Uh-huh.
not allowed to ship out of anywhere, but we do ship out of anywhere.
Well, sure.
There's 13 states we can't ship to. I don't know that list right now. Texas is one of the states we can ship to. So
Really? So you can ship to
yeah,
Texas, but I can't ship
as
out.
long as you get
Thanks,
as
Governor
long as you
Abbott,
get an
you
account
dick.
with FedEx, you can ship it anywhere you want, except for these 13 states. So
So
I
they can
have that account. So I
tell
can
us where
ship
they
to
can find
Texas
your
all day
whiskey.
long.
Tell us where they can
I'm
find
sorry.
you online. Since we're online,
Uh,
tell them where they can find you.
Online, go to www.leftturndistilling.com. That's our website.
Left Turn Distilling,
.com.
distilling.com.
Yeah, and you can buy it off that site.
There you go.
Probably totally illegal, but I'll sell it to you. What do I care? I started this business illegal anyway, so
Well, there you go. We're all
yeah,
outlaws. It's fine.
yeah,
See, we're in the same boat here in Texas. The distillery can't ship, but I can sell it
right.
to my neighbor and he can send it to anybody he wants to.
Right.
Absolutely
Weird how
ass
that works,
backwards
right?
insane.
Yeah,
So, there you go. Okay,
yeah,
so leftturndistilling.com. You are in Albuquerque, so if you're
right.
driving through Albuquerque, look them up, stop in. They've got a fabulous bar, fabulous little cozy place. Are people allowed to actually come inside the bar right now in New Mexico?
Right now, no. Right
Okay,
now, no.
so when you're
New Mexico is really, really strict
so
about this
next
stuff,
time in June,
dude. We're closed down right now. I
you
mean,
shouldn't be traveling
my
right now
business has been
anyway.
closed
So
down
stay
since
home, people.
15th of November. Nothing I can do
Okay,
about it.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of the boat of most of the places here. Most of the places in Texas that are shut down or have been shut down went out and got a food license. So they're restaurants because restaurants don't have viruses floating around in the air. Only bars.
Doesn't work that way in New Mexico. Restaurants, bars, food, you name it, we're all shut down. So
Yeah. So it's so frustrating because I see posts like tweets and Facebook posts going like, "Where's the best place I can go to watch the game?" I'm like, "In your fucking living room, people. Jesus, there's an apocalypse going on. The air is poisoned. Stay home. What's wrong with you?" Anyway, uh, okay. One more question. Second follow up question to the previous question. What's the best part of running the business?
The
I know.
creation of, I mean, I make booze for a living, dude. Come on. And turns
Obviously,
out I drink booze for a living.
yeah. I think the
I actually, what I did for a living today is I tasted vodka and rum today
mhm.
23 times.
Whew.
Yeah. So it's not a horrible way to make a living.
Yeah, that's true. I think for me the best part is there's two really great parts about running this business. When I get random emails, random tweets, random Facebook posts, whatever, of some person I don't know. It's always it's best when it's someone I don't know. I love it when my friends and family post this stuff, but when it's a random person
Yeah.
I don't know, they say, we picked this up at the store, we tried it, it's really, really fantastic. I love that because it's like, it reminds me of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I mean, I know I know my stuff tastes good because I make it, that's why I make it, because it tastes good. But when other people especially people who I don't know, try it and they're like, wow, this is really fantastic. Or a friend of mine gave this to me, this is great, I'm going to go buy myself a bottle. I'm like, boom, that's exactly why we do this. It's fantastic. I love it. The other related to that I love about doing this is when I go out and do promo events, promo tastings, when I'm in the liquor store and I'm passing out the samples and stuff, and somebody tells me, I don't really like whiskey. I'm like, just try mine. You haven't had a whiskey you like, is what you're telling me. Try this one. And they drink and they go, wow. I'm like, that's it. And then they pick up a bottle and they go home with it. I'm like, I'm doing the Lord's work. I'm getting the spirit.
That's my best story too. My best story too is the same thing with corn whiskeys. I mean, I'm a corn whiskey guy, and so when I represent corn whiskey to people, it's like I say, yeah, you probably haven't had corn whiskey before. It doesn't taste like Jack Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
This is corn whiskey, and to be able to convert somebody to like corn whiskey, it's amazing. It really is. And it happens like that too, because I mean, people will taste corn whiskey and say, holy fuck, that's really good.
Yeah. There's a very deep inside joke that I oftentimes repeat. Only a handful of people get the joke when I do it. When people tell me they don't like whiskey and I tell them, every time I convert somebody, I get a toaster, so you can try it. There's every once in a while somebody gets that joke. Usually it's closer to Austin. It's not always here in Houston. It's never in Dallas. But every once in a while people get that joke. They're like, all right. And they try it and we laugh and it's a great time. So the explanation of the inside joke for all of y'all, both of y'all out there watching, is back in the 90s. It's a I don't want to say it's a gay joke. It's kind of a lesbian culture joke. I guess maybe a gay culture joke, a homosexual culture joke. Anyway, the joke was when you convert somebody over to your team,
right?
They give you a toaster. You get a toaster.
Yeah.
And that's always the joke. And every once in a while, I get somebody who gets the joke. They laugh and we joke, we high five, and you're a funny guy. And I love it. That's another one of the favorite parts when I can just sit there and just dick around with people and goof off and laugh and then get serious about the whiskey. Like, put it in you. It's delicious. That's so much fun. Anywho. Brian, we're technically past our time, but since I'm the producer, I can do whatever the hell I want. Dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And you absolutely have an open invitation to come to the shop anytime you're in town.
I'll be there.
Let me know when you road trip down here. I'll give you my phone number. You can text me.
Please do. Reach out on Facebook, the link we have earlier. So, because I'll be down there. I mean, I travel around a lot, visit distilleries because that's what I do for my living. So.
Yeah, and when we're on vacation, when we're out traveling, I promise my wife, I'm not going to talk shop. I'm not going to do shop stuff. We're not going to sell whiskey. And then invariably, we're on the road, and there's like a distillery. I'm like, I see it, and I look at it, and I get all antsy. I'm like, she's like, do you want to go? Do you want to go ride the ride? I'm like, she's like, you can go.
Yeah, we all talk the business.
We went on a trip up to the Badlands. In the Badlands, Devil's Tower, Mount Rushmore, we saw that area.
I'm from there.
Oh, no kidding. Well, there's a Badlands distillery there in Nebraska, and we were stopping to get gas on our way home.
Yeah.
And behind this gas station was the Badlands Distilling Company.
Right.
And I looked over there and I saw, like, look, there's a distillery. And then I like, oh, there's a distillery. And I'm like all giddy and excited. She's like, do you want to go? I'm like, we can't go. The kids are in the car. This was like 4 years ago. They were 11 and 6 at the time. Like, the kids are in the car. And you're here. We need to get home. And then, we're like 3 days away on the road. And we still need to get. She's like, you can go if you want to. And I was gone before she finished the sentence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, by the way, I'm like, put up the gas pump. I love you. Bye. And we got a really delicious coffee liqueur. We got a really delicious whiskey. That's where I got the idea for the charcoals to put in the bottles. They're a fantastic distillery. We'll get them on the show later. You're on the show now.
Well, we'll come down to see it for sure.
Well, absolutely. Doors open all the time. You're welcome to come in and join me. Yeah, I'll show off the shop. I'll let you see everything we got. Hopefully, we'll have everything built by then, and you'll be able to. Hell, maybe we'll even have a band. You can just hang out and have a drink. And
I'm available to help if you need help. So, turns out I know how to build stills.
Well, there you go. Yeah, might hit you up for that at some point. Anyway, all right, my man. Tell you what, It's time to wrap up. I need to. Okay, Moose Gal had one more question. She wants to know what's the best type of whiskey.
As far as,
I mean, that's a tricky question.
Yeah,
because there's a whiskey for every palate and a palate for every.
What do you like? What do you like?
I mean, that's a tricky question because I've had really good bourbons and I've had really bad bourbons. I've had really good corn whiskey and really bad corn whiskey. I've had really good. I mean, like spirit whiskey is one that everybody shits on because it's basically aged vodka, but
right.
It's also
which is Crown Royal.
It's also just really easy to drink.
Gotta say it.
Yeah, like McCormick's, for example. That's vodka that's been aged in barrels and turned into spirit whiskey.
Right.
It is empirically bad. They sell it in plastic bottles.
I gotta answer. That's a tough question. So
it's like $8 whiskey and $2 is the bottle, and it's empirically like on all metrics. But it's really easy to drink because it tastes like vodka that is brown.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I gotta back off on that.
Yeah, one, so. I don't think there's an answer to that one. I don't think there's an empirical, scientific answer to the single best whiskey. The best whiskey is the whiskey that you drink.
Yeah, because the best whiskey has a shit ton of rye in it. Let's say that. I'm leaning that direction though. That just lately, so I'm not always like that.
I've gone to people's houses. I've gone to people's houses where they've opened up the bar and they've said, "What would you like to drink?" And there's like 20 bottles of whiskey in there, and they're all like 3/4 full, which tells me that most of those bottles of whiskey they didn't like. They didn't like enough to drink them. I want to go to their trash can and see what they drank.
Yeah,
what did
go
you
to the
finish?
one that's empty.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's my. I mean, if you show me a bottle that you've had for 20 years that's only 3/4 empty or 3/4 full, that tells me you don't like that bottle. I've got 3 or 4 bottles in my cabinet that I have not finished because they're crap. I did not like them. I give them to friends. And I tell them they're expensive. Like, this is a $50. This is a $220 bottle of whiskey. This is really good. And they're like, this is yummy. I'm like,
huh?
Yeah.
Right on. Joe, thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. Open invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, our distinguished guest, Brian Langwell. I pronounced it correctly because I wrote it down phonetically so that I wouldn't mispronounce it. From the Left Turn Distilling Company. Thank you so much for coming in, man. I appreciate it.
Indeed. Thanks, dude.
I'm going to close you out, and then I will close out the show shortly thereafter. Cheers, brother.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, that was fantastic. Brian Langwell from the Left Turn Distilling Company out in Albequerque. That is, by the way, a cultural reference that people of a certain age understand. The rest of you young ones don't understand it, and we're not going to tell you about the inside joke. You're just going to have to ask somebody older, but not somebody on this show. So there, take that. Thanks, Moose Gal. I thought that was it's a challenging question, and it's a hard answer to give because there are. I don't want to say that your mood affects your preference as far as what the whiskey goes, but it's like wine. With certain meals, you want white wine. With certain meals, you want red wine. And there's not necessarily a best wine to drink because some wines are applicable to certain situations and some wines are applicable to other situations. So there you go. Oh, goodness gracious, I had a little hiccup there. But to a significant degree, it's the same way with whiskey. because sometimes you're in the mood for a rye, sometimes you're in the mood for something a little sweeter, sometimes you're in the mood for something uh, a little bit different, and there's no one tool to there's no one tool to address that job. That's why people have toolkits. That's why people have tool belts. That's why you have entire tool chests. You can't just use a hammer to solve every problem. Now, if all you have is one whiskey, then obviously that's the best whiskey. But I mean, even me. I mean, geez, I've got 26 empty bottles here behind me. Uh, like for real, I've got like shit tons of empty bottles here behind me. I love my whiskey, but I mean, I would say that that's obviously my favorite whiskey because I make it, but I wouldn't even say that that's the underscore the best capital B whiskey. It's clearly the best whiskey in Texas and absolutely the best whiskey in the known universe. But in this particular circumstance, in that particular circumstance, in any particular circumstance, there may be another whiskey that is the whiskey you want for that particular night. Like, for example, tonight, I am drinking Old Santa Fe Trail straight bourbon whiskey from the Left Turn Distilling Company, who was my distinguished guest of honor tonight, Mr. Brian Langwell, who joined me. Now, we're closing out the show tonight. I've got several thank yous. Thank you very much over to the folks over at the Cabin Fever live stream on Twitch who hosted us. You can follow us on Twitch, Old Humble Guy on Twitch, Cabin Fever live stream on Twitch. Follow us both. If you are on Twitch, if you are on the YouTubes, obviously subscribe to this channel, like this video, do all the things. You can also find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on our website, oldhumbledistilling.com. And right now, we have a very exciting opportunity for anybody interested in investing in the distillery, interested in investing in the distillery. For as little as $100, you can invest in the distillery and be a part of our future growth. We have a promissory note that is available for crowdfunded investors. You do not have to be an accredited investor. Anybody can invest in this note. It pays 12.5% interest, 180% return over 7 years, pays out quarterly. It's a percentage of revenue sharing, a percentage of revenue for the company, so it's a revenue sharing promissory note. All the details are there online. You can get it. It is on our website at oldhumbledistilling.com. You can find the link down in the description of this video where it says you can help us. You can help cause trouble with us. What's it say? Let me look at the exact spot. You can be a bad influence for us by investing in our distillery. That's what it says specifically. Thank you, Muscow. I liked that interview a lot. He was a fantastic interview. And we're going to have more folks like that. I've reached out to several small craft distilleries, small craft breweries, and other artists and performers here in the state of Texas and elsewhere to come on the show and be a guest. Next week's topic of discussion, in addition to our guest who I have not confirmed yet, we are going to be reviewing and looking back at the Brewster's Millions Challenge, updated for 2021. Back in 1985, it was $30 million in 30 days. Today, that same amount of money would be $73 million in 30 days. The alternative would be taking $2.5 million up front. So it's $73 million, spending $73 million. So that's something you can think about for the next week. How would you spend $73 million? And that's not buying assets. That's not, I'll buy a golden egg and I'll sit on it and then sell it. You can't do that. You can't buy stocks. You can give away 5% charity, 5% gambling. You can't buy buy a building and rent it out and that'll be 70. No, you can't do that. You can't buy assets. You can't do shit like that. You can buy a stamp, lick it, put it on a letter. You can buy a bottle of whiskey. You can drink it because that's like legit. But, some of the stuff you think is expensive isn't as expensive as you think it is. Like renting a Bugatti, that's not as expensive as you think it is. Renting the Crown Plaza penthouse, that's not as expensive as you think it is. Renting all of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, that's not as expensive as you think it is. So what I'm saying is, do I know anyone who makes sangria? That's a good one. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to make some phone calls because sangria is a fantastically delicious drink. So we'll see. I will put that on the list. Let me write that down. Where's a pen? There it is. See, I'm here in my office. I could do stuff like that. Look, behind my head here, y'all don't see this very often. That is a clock. If you ever looked at that clock, you would note that it is always just before 8 o'clock. That clock doesn't work. And at some point, that's going to be a trivia question. And the person who answers that question correctly will get a free bottle of whiskey. What time is it on the clock that doesn't work in the Old Humble Distilling Company studio? There it is. 8:50, looks like 53. 8:50, yeah, it looks like 8:50, no, 8:58, 8:57, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there you go. That will at some point be a trivia question. If you answer it right, you will get a free bottle of whiskey. Just so you know. Okay, so sangria. I have written that down. I will look it up. I will call around. I've got calls out to a local gin maker and whiskey maker, another local whiskey maker, a couple of craft breweries here in town. I've got calls. We'll see what happens. But next week we're going to be talking about the new 2021 Brewster's Million Challenge. How would you spend $73 million? I may even. I've got a couple of calls out to some folks who actually know how to spend that kind of money. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Help us out. Help us grow. Be a bad influence with us. All the sangrias for you. Help us be a bad influence. Go check out our website. Go check out our main best offering, www.oldhumbledistilling.com. That is a great opportunity to help us grow. We will be back next week. We will be on Ku Agenti's show on Facebook, which is standing room only. In 2 weeks, we will have our show also in 2 weeks, which means our show in 2 weeks will be pre-recorded and posted. Come watch the show. Share it with your friends. We are going to resume our quest for 500 subscribers starting very, very, very soon, probably starting the next week or so. Now, once this capital campaign starts to wrap up, we'll be able to focus more on our programs here on this network, on this channel. I am upgrading what we have available for you to see. What else do we need? Yeah, Moose Gal, we do. We need many more folks to come by here. I am looking forward. Our internet access at the distillery will be up and running in May because our local internet and cable company is completely incompetent. They have one job. Well, two jobs: run cable and maintain cable. And it is going to take them almost an entire year to run cable to our store. So that's awesome. That's awesome. That's absolutely fantastic and awesome. You know what would be cool? Let me try this. I'm going to move the microphone real quick. I haven't done this in a while. That will be awesome. That will be awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Comcast. All right. Just to be clear, fuck Comcast. Anyway. Thank you, Moose Gal. Love you, truly do. I love all my fans. I've got a good following on Twitter. I've got a good following on Facebook. I've got a good following here on YouTube, and I really, 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 truly do appreciate the support. Thank y'all so much for following along and supporting the channel and stuff that we're doing. We've got a whole lot planned for this year and several years in the future. In fact, I just talked to a local YouTube personality, Mr. Micah from Micah's Mix, about doing some commercials for the channel because he has better equipment than I do and better head for this shit than I do. We will be doing many more better shows like this. We will be doing concerts. And I will also add, stay on the lookout for the Old Humble Date Nights, which will go live in the next 3 days. And next show on Thursday, you will get a coupon code for the Old Humble Date Nights. So if you want to get a date night, you get 10% off by watching this show next Thursday. So tune in next Thursday to get your coupon code. I'm not kidding. These things are awesome. You get a bottle, you get cocktail mixers, you get a show stream from our channel, you get opportunities and discounts and all kinds of other stuff. I don't know what all we're going to put in the box, but definitely the bottle, the mixers, and the show. What the hell else do you want? Bottles, mixers, and a show. You get a private show in your own house that you can watch on the YouTube channel. What else do you want? Do you want me to come and mow your lawn? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to shovel snow either. So, like, get it and stuff. Anyway, that's it. That's our show. We have gone for now an hour and change. Jesus, an hour and a half. We're wrapping this up, kids. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, thank you so much for tuning in. Check out leftturndistilling.com. These guys, check out oldhumbledistilling.com. These guys, remember, 8:57. That means it's time to wrap it up. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've got just a little bit left in my glass, so we're going to do one final toast. Cheers to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. I really do appreciate the support. And be awesome. Drink humble. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, thank you for tuning into the show. Hit that subscription button there. Find us on all the social medias down there. There's a video that's recommended for you. There's another video that's recommended for you. And there's a playlist that's recommended for you. Thank you for tuning in. Cheers and good night.